My name is Kobe Bryant, 17 years old.
The Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
Bryant for three, it's short again, air ball, it's Tyson, it's over.
Lead is safe against the Lakers because of this man, Kobe Bryant, can take over.
So hard, it was a hard-fought game, and we finally got a championship, and it feels great.
81-point game, 55 in the second half.
Repeat back-to-back titles. The LA Lakers, the 2010 NBA champions.
Thank you for all the inspiration. You guys will always be in my heart. Mamba out.
The Lakers have notified the league Bryant will wear 24 next year.
Ball, look who's back. Double clutch reverse. Pop off, Kobe. Pop it a little bit. At 95-90 juice. Behind his back, on a spin. Oh, and the slam. He'll go to the line. The crowd was on their feet.
One of our top stories, the Lakers adding some firepower, pulling off a blockbuster deal. Pau Gasol, Kobe Bryant's new teammate.
10, 14 points, 4 boards. Gasol, that'll seal the deal.
It's Kobe Bryant, the recipient of the 2007-2008 NBA Most Valuable Player Award.
After a 22-year absence, the Boston Celtics are NBA champions once again.
Kobe, you won the MVP, you led the team to the finals. How do you characterize this season?
Well, the goal was to win a championship. It wasn't to win MVP or anything like that. It was to win a championship. So, from that aspect, we failed.
From the moment the Lakers entered training camp in 2008, there was one word that was unanimously on everyone's mind: revenge.
When we entered training camp this year, we were still very disappointed and almost angry from the way our season ended, last year. And you could feel it in the room. The bad taste was still there.
After what he would eventually call the greatest failure of his career, Kobe Bryant had the opportunity to represent the United States in the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, where he helped lead Team USA to the gold medal, once again proving that he was arguably the best player in the world. Now, as he headed back to Los Angeles to regroup ahead of the upcoming season, the expectation for success had been set, and nothing less would be accepted. Over the course of the past year, Kobe and talented big man Pau Gasol had formed one of the game's greatest 1-2 punches, with Bryant continuing his dominance on his way to his first career MVP. Standing at 7 feet tall, Gasol had been a bright spot on a struggling Grizzlies team, but the triangle offense in LA gave the talented big plenty of opportunities to showcase his skill. Finally having a consistent second scoring option for Bryant, the rest of the roster had fallen perfectly into place. Now well established with the team, Lamar Odom was the glue that held the offense together, and promising young players like Andrew Bynum and Trevor Ariza played important roles on both ends of the floor. Longtime teammate Derek Fisher was one of the most efficient point guards in the league, and had the NBA Finals experience needed to help Kobe steer the ship. Each member of the roster had played a key role in the Lakers reaching the NBA Finals the previous year, and now with the knowledge of what it takes to get to the game's biggest stage, Bryant was determined to lead them back to the top for redemption. And this time, he was going to do things his way.
He understood that without you and everybody else being on that mode, we were going to fall short. So he had to have everyone kind of buy into his mindset of obsession for winning and competing and challenging everyone. And that's what it took to be a champion.
Anxious to put the bitter loss in the NBA Finals behind them, Los Angeles got off to a strong start in 2008, winning their first 7 games on their way to tying the franchise record for most wins to start a season. By mid-December, the team had hit their stride, compiling a 21-3 record and putting the entire league on notice. Perhaps the most notable warning shot came on Christmas Day 2008, when the Lakers matched up with a red-hot Celtics team entering the game riding a 19-game winning streak. The Lakers' defense had been elite all season, and combined with a 27-point performance from Kobe, they were able to beat down Boston in the Staples Center on their way to a 9-point victory.
You know, it's special, obviously, because there's so much hype around it playing Christmas Day. And, you know, everybody talking about us being soft and so forth. So I think we've gotten better and, you know, better defensive system. And I think we're just a better ball club.
While the Lakers would continue to rack up wins, with Kobe being named the Western Conference Player of the Month for December, a moment during a late January contest against the Memphis Grizzlies would test the mental strength of not only Kobe, but the rest of the team altogether.
Bynum is hurt. Oh no. Oh no. Andrew Bynum, you can hear him screaming in pain. And Kobe Bryant landed right into his knee.
After missing over 60 games the previous year due to injury, Andrew Bynum had been seen as the missing piece for the Lakers going into this season. And now facing the possibility of losing the young big for another unknown amount of time, it was easy to see the uncertainty in the eyes of the Lakers. Heading into a primetime game in Madison Square Garden, there was no better opportunity for a statement from the Black Mamba.
We think we got Andrew, who's going to make a big difference for us. Now he goes down, we don't know how long he's going to be out for. The team was a little deflated. I was pissed off. You know what I mean? Because it's like, no, we're winning the championship this year, come hell or high water. And my guys were down. And going into New York, big game, I said, all right, I got to send a message to my guys and say, no, listen, we're doing this. I understand it's hard, you went down, but we're getting it done. So it's important to get into that mind frame of, no, nothing matters, and I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to see no celebrities on the sideline. Don't dap me. Don't say hi to me. I don't care about none of y'all tonight.
You just focus.
That was it.
Now the length of Wilson Chandler up against Kobe. And Kobe, what about right off the bench. Kobe over Chandler after the crossover. Inside the arc. I don't care. It's looked good, didn't it? By 5. He's got Kobe on the wing. And Kobe flying home. Two-hander by 7. 27 for 24. On a fall away. The floater.
That New York game, I knew D'Antoni's philosophies are never to double a guy that's high, because he always thinks they're going to cool off eventually, right? So I understood that. So once I got rolling, I knew that was going to be the case.
Kobe on a spin, what a pivot. Yes! 121-103, 59 for Kobe. What a display! Play at an incredible level. He's got it. Kobe Bryant has now scored more points than any other player at Madison Square Garden with 61.
By the end of the regular season, Kobe and the Lakers had put together the second best record in the NBA, finishing 65-17 and earning the #1 seed in the West. Bryant had continued his dominance, averaging 26.8 points per game and 5 assists, while once again securing spots on both the All-NBA First Team and First Team All-Defense. That being said, the time for the playoffs had finally arrived, and all individual honors took a back seat as Kobe and the rest of Los Angeles turned their attention to the season's main goal. After gaining the experience of winning the Western Conference playoffs the previous season, the Lakers entered the 2009 postseason with a clear understanding of what it takes to reach the finals.
For the Lakers, it's only one goal, and that's to win a championship. They've been waiting to start the postseason again, and they look like they are primed for a long, long run.
The first team standing in their way came in the form of the 8th-seeded Utah Jazz, who were led by a young core of future All-Stars and coached by the legendary Jerry Sloan. Los Angeles knew it couldn't take any opponent lightly and came out the gates aggressive, winning the first 2 games on their way to a 4-1 series victory and a ticket to the next round. While the Lakers had looked the part of title contenders in round 1, waiting for them in round 2 was the hungry Houston Rockets, who despite losing superstar Tracy McGrady earlier in the year, had still managed to win 53 games behind future Hall of Famer Yao Ming. The Rockets embodied the underdog role, with one of the league's best defenders in Ron Artest leading the charge in trying to take the Lakers out of their comfort zone. The strategy would work to perfection, as a gritty Houston team would shock the basketball world, beating Los Angeles on their home court and sending a wake-up call to the Lakers. Despite Kobe scoring 32 in Game 1, the Rockets had out-hustled LA behind Yao's 28-point and 10-rebound performance, making it clear that this series would be anything but easy. Game 2 had quickly become a must-win for the Lakers, and with Bryant being hungry as ever for the championship, he would lead his team as only he knew how.
Lakers have started 7-9. Battier watches Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant has started this game 4-5. Bryant tries on Shane Battier, who draws the foul as Kobe looks over at Doug Collins and said, "This guy cannot guard me."
Kobe would drop 40 points in a crucial Game 2 win, fighting through the Rockets' scrappy defense and proving that he was willing to go to any lengths to carry his team to the NBA Finals.
Right from the opening tip, we want to be aggressive, get after it a little bit. We're being tested, so, this is when it's the most fun, to be honest with you.
The Rockets and Lakers would split the next 2 games in Houston, with Houston picking up a huge victory in Game 4, putting together an all-around team effort as star big man Yao Ming had gone down with a fracture in his right foot. Los Angeles would respond with a massive 40-point win on their home court, and an opportunity was presented to close the series out in 6 games. But once again, they found themselves struggling to find ways to put away the Rockets, as the very next game, Houston would scratch and claw its way to force a Game 7. With their backs against the wall to an unexpected opponent, Los Angeles would respond to the challenge, putting together one of their best efforts in the series behind the suffocating defense that they had prided themselves on all season long. The Lakers ended the night with a 19-point win and a well-earned ticket to the Western Conference Finals.
It's a good experience to face an elimination game, to face a seesaw battle of a playoff series, going up, going down. I think it helps the team come together.
After the grueling 7-game series with Houston, Bryant and the Lakers understood the importance of taking care of business in the conference finals, especially if they wanted some much-needed rest heading into the championship series. Matching up with LA at the top of the West was a strong Denver Nuggets team, who behind young star Carmelo Anthony and former Finals MVP Chauncey Billups had clinched the number 2 seed and were making a case as legitimate contenders. Kobe and the Lakers would start the series off strong, with Bryant dropping 40 points and Gasol dominating the paint on the way to a 2-point victory. However, Game 2 would be another fight to the finish, with each team's star going at each other as Carmelo and Kobe combined for 66 points in a showdown at the Staples Center.
It's J.R. Smith who sparks him off the bench as Carmelo Anthony hits another and continues his hot hand. Bryant drives inside the finish. Anthony gets inside, blocked from behind by Odom. That time he's fouled and he puts it in. And that's what we've been seeing from Anthony. Anthony on Bryant. Bryant for 3. Tie game!
Neither team's defense could gain control, and as the dust settled, the Nuggets were able to pull out a hard-fought 106-103 victory, with the series headed to Denver. Despite splitting the next 2 games to tie the series up at 2 games apiece, the Lakers had a certain amount of composure, with every guy in the locker room knowing they had to avoid a repeat of the Rockets series. With a chance at redemption in the finals on their minds, Los Angeles would win back-to-back games to close out the Nuggets, including a 35-point dagger performance by Kobe Bryant to send his Lakers back to the game's greatest stage.
This is where it becomes the greatest challenge for us.
Fellas, let somebody handle your ticket. Let somebody take your phone calls. Tell them leave you alone for another 2 weeks.
Focus now. We gotta focus. 1, 2, 3. Right.
Waiting for the Lakers at the summit of the postseason was an unexpected but still dangerous opponent. The number 3 seed Orlando Magic had survived a gauntlet in the Eastern Conference, knocking off the defending champion Celtics in an intense 7-game series, and then taking out the 66-win top-seeded Cavaliers in 6 games. The Magic were led by a young star big man in Dwight Howard, who had put up over 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game during the regular season. And they had a pair of talented forwards in Hedo Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis, who made up a well-balanced scoring attack. Los Angeles entered the series as the favorites, with few people expecting Orlando to be able to compete with their experience. But after narrowly avoiding an upset earlier in the playoffs, the Lakers knew not to take any opponent lightly. As Game 1 was underway at the Staples Center, it was clear the Lakers had done their homework, swarming Dwight Howard at every opportunity in an effort to slow him down. From there, Los Angeles played the elite defense they had been known for all season, holding all Magic players below 13 points and forcing their 3 main scorers to all shoot below 27% from the field. On the other end, Kobe had risen to the challenge once again, determined to make his mark on the series from the opening tip and fueled with the desire to win another ring after a 7-year drought.
Deflected by Nelson. Bryant gets it right back. Falling away, tough shot, puts it in. Oh, what a shot from Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant hit, count it, and one. Shot clock winding down. Kobe Bryant on the drive, gets to the basket. Oh, what a move from Kobe Bryant as the shot clock expires. Couple of fakes. Shot clock at 2, he's got to put it up. Tries to bank it, does so, and a foul. Kobe Bryant, brilliant here in the 3rd quarter, and the Lakers up by 22.
Bryant would continue to hunt for his spots and stay aggressive throughout the entire contest, scoring 18 points in the 3rd quarter alone on his way to a 40-point and 8-assist performance. The Lakers would come out on top, pulling off a 25-point victory to take Game 1 and sending a message to the Magic.
I just want it so bad. I just want it really bad. So, it's just, you just put everything you have into the game, and then, your emotions kind of flow out of you.
Anxious to put Game 1 behind them, the Magic came out strong in Game 2, with the talented forward Rashard Lewis making his presence known early. With so much attention being paid to Howard, Lewis had been able to get some good looks early on, and he heated up quickly on his way to 18 points in the 2nd quarter alone.
Lewis is the fire right now. He what, 2 in a row, 3 in a row? Right, got offensive rebound, little J corner 3, right? So we got to put out that fight.
The Lakers had remained aggressive, using their defense to spark momentum as they had all postseason long. And as the 2 teams battled down the stretch, it was the Magic who had the ball with a chance to win at the end of regulation.
Turkoglu again will trigger. Odom jumping up high to obscure his view. A lot to the basket for Lee. Caught it, laid it up, no good! And we'll go to overtime.
Having been given a gift courtesy of the blown play, the Lakers would never look back in overtime, as the duo of Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol would prove just why they had become known as one of the game's elite tandems.
Bryant, jab step, drive, puts it up, shot's good. Top shot, the Lakers back up by 1. Puts LA at the free throw line. Bryant looks inside, finds Gasol, count it, and a foul.
Together, the two would combine for 53 points, burying the Magic's hopes for a Game 2 upset and walking away with a well-earned 5-point overtime victory.
Still waiting for a big smile out of you. You're up 2-0. What's the story? Are you not happy, or you're only half happy, or?
Still to be happy about.
You're up 2-0.
Job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so.
With the series going back to Orlando, the Magic knew it was now or never to make a statement in the series. The Amway Center hadn't seen an NBA Finals matchup since Shaq and Penny ran the show in 1995, and the city was buzzing with excitement. Kobe Bryant, however, had other plans, as he would start the game scorching hot, dropping 17 points in the first quarter to pull the Lakers out to a 4-point lead heading into the second. The Magic would respond with a run of their own, as Turkoglu and Lewis poured in shots from the perimeter, and the Orlando crowd witnessed their team put together their most impressive performance of the series, with 5 guys scoring at least 18 points. The offensive onslaught would be too much for Los Angeles, with the Magic on their way to a crucial 4-point win in Game 3.
It's a tough team. It's not a cupcake team. It's a tough loss for us. And, we feel like we can play much, much better. So tomorrow, just make your adjustments and get ready to go.
Aware of the dangers that come with giving an underdog opponent hope, Kobe and the Lakers had no intentions of letting this series get out of hand. And from the moment Game 4 got underway, it was clear that Bryant wasn't interested in seeing the series go on any longer.
With the midway point of the first, Bryant to the basket, drive, shot's good, out of bounds. Good move by Bryant. Bryant leans in, puts it up, puts it in, top shot.
The Magic refused to go down easy, and it took a big shot by the veteran Derek Fisher to send the game to overtime. But by the time the final buzzer sounded, the Mamba had scored 32 points and collected 8 assists in an 8-point win. Now with the championship in reach and Orlando down 3-1, there was no question what was coming next.
One thing. Real quick. In 2000, we won the championship against Indiana. And in Game 5, we assumed that Indiana was going to lay down. And we went in there and got kicked royally by 30 points. That's true. So Sunday, when we show up here, the same determination, fight, grit, belief, confidence, we got to show up with that again on Sunday. They're not going to quit. You don't get this far and quit. So let's enjoy this. But, hey, Sunday, man.
One more.
On a mission that had spanned the course of almost a decade, looking to achieve his first championship in the post-Shaq era, Kobe Bryant entered Game 5 as focused as he had ever been in his career. He had made strides as a leader this season, learning from past mistakes and committing himself to guiding this team to championship glory. As he had done all series long, the game's greatest closer came out of the gates attacking, scoring 11 points in the first quarter with the intent of crushing the Magic's spirits early. Everyone in the Amway Center crowd witnessed one of the game's all-time greats rise to the occasion in the game that mattered most.
Kobe Bryant and the finish. This is Mozart in sneakers for Kobe Bryant. Bryant looking to double team, gets it to go. Top shot field. Bryant knocks it down. But they're at their best. He's making points. Wow! And speaking of making plays, Bryant banks it in. Mama, there goes that man.
Behind his example, the rest of the Lakers followed suit, with Trevor Ariza continuing his elite defensive play and Lamar Odom knocking down big shots off the bench to keep the Lakers in front. As the seconds began to tick down, the Lakers' execution on both ends would prove to be too much for Orlando, and after a long journey of ups and downs, it was time for the purple and gold to celebrate.
The Lakers are NBA champions once again. LA wins the 2009 NBA title.
Such a long journey, so many ups and downs, and so many sacrifices to my family and me working hard.
After the crushing defeat in the finals the previous season, Kobe Bryant had finally proven to the world that he could lead the Lakers to an NBA championship. Over the course of the series, Bryant had averaged 32.4 points, 7 assists, 1.4 steals, and 1.4 blocks per game, a stat line that earned him his first career Finals MVP and made him the first player since Michael Jordan to average 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on the winning team in the finals. Fueled by years of public ridicule, on-court team struggles, and questions about if he could do it, Kobe had once and for all shown the world that he was capable of anything he put his mind to.
It's rare in a career when you get to the top of the mountain and then you gotta start over again. And then you get back up to the top of the mountain again. You just don't see that too often. And I feel very fortunate and very blessed to be in this situation and just proud.
While winning his 4th ring, the first without Shaq, was a career-defining moment, it was obvious that Bryant still wasn't satisfied with easing up his hunt for rings. After all, his idol and eventual mentor Michael Jordan had been able to win 6 during the Bulls' historic run in the 90s, and former teammate O'Neal had already been able to win his 4th a few years previously in Miami. Kobe knew that in order to be on the level of the all-time greats, another ring was needed to properly fill out his resume. With Phil Jackson reprising his role as head coach and the core pieces of the roster remaining intact going into the 2009-2010 season, the Lakers had already been seen as the favorites. But the addition of a familiar face who had given Los Angeles trouble in the 2009 playoffs would be a key ingredient to another title run.
Ron Artest, who's actually a year younger than Kobe Bryant, joining the Lake Show. 2 years ago, he told Kobe Bryant that he wanted to help him win a championship, and now that day has finally arrived.
How this was going to happen, so it wasn't like a surprise type thing. Like I said, I wanted to be a teammate of his and be a part of the Lakers for a long time.
Adding a proven scorer and elite defender in Ron Artest rounded out an already championship caliber lineup in LA. And as the season got underway, it was clear that Kobe and the Lake Show were once again on a mission.
You know, the end result is repeating, but and it's a whole nother year. You know, we did last year was great. It's not that difficult to me. Just forget about it, move on to the next season, win it again.
After receiving the symbol of their hard work from the previous season on opening night, the Lakers would win 18 of their first 21 games to start the regular season, looking invincible as the chemistry forged in the postseason rolled over into the new year. Kobe Bryant continued his reign as the game's most talented scorer, putting up 30 over 9 times during that stretch, and growing his legend as one of the game's greatest closers with a collection of game-winning shots that single-handedly propelled the Lakers to victory.
Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! He banks in the 3!
Amazing! Kobe has just won it for the Lakers!
It was such a Kobe moment. I actually couldn't be that mad because I looked down and said, it's Kobe. You see the laugh or cry? I don't know what's funny to do or laugh. Hey man, the only person I'm like, look, anybody else, I'll tore that locker room up.
The Lakers for the win. Kobe going up over Bell, fall away. Yes! Yes! At the buzzer, he does it! Was there ever a doubt? Kobe wins it for the Lakers! We saw just the time Kobe. Kobe will get it for the win. Hard to believe.
Even after the hot start, the middle of the season brought some adversity, as some offensive struggles had added more pressure on Bryant to rise to the occasion, something he never shied away from. But it didn't take long to see that his body was struggling to carry the load that his mind was willing to.
Kobe came up guilty on that play.
There's a variety of things that went on with him in the course of the year.
Kobe plays hurt, injured, tweaked ankles, dislocated fingers, bad wrist, back spasms, night in and night out.
His finger, you know, he had a hip situation, hurt his knee. He finally had to submit to the fact that I'm doing a disservice to myself and now I'm gonna have to sit back here a little bit and recuperate.
While Kobe was forced to step away from the game for 3 weeks to get healthy prior to the playoffs, the rest of the Lakers stepped up to fill his responsibilities on the court, as an increase in team chemistry led to 4 straight wins in his absence, and as he returned, the roster once again made strides down the home stretch. Los Angeles would end up finishing with a Western Conference best 57 wins, clinching the #1 seed for the 3rd straight season. Kobe Bryant had been deadly as ever, averaging 27 points and 5 assists on 46% shooting per game, and becoming the youngest player to ever score 25,000 points at the age of 31. Once again taking his spot on the first team All-NBA and All-Defense, the stars had once again aligned for Bryant to lead the Lakers into the playoffs, and the quest for the elusive repeat championship was on. Despite once again being the West's top seed, there were still people who doubted the Lakers' ability for a back-to-back, especially after a few bad losses at the end of the regular season had left them looking vulnerable. Regardless, the postseason was a new opportunity to silence critics, and the first team that stood in their way was an uncharacteristically talented 8 seed in Oklahoma City. The Thunder featured the youngest scoring champion in NBA history, as a 21-year-old Kevin Durant had taken the league by storm in only his 3rd season. However, just as the Lakers had hoped, the investment of Ron Artest in the summer would pay off early in the series, as the highly touted on-ball defender would make life difficult for Durant, holding him to just 29% shooting in Game 1. Behind a big double-double performance by Pau Gasol, the Lakers would secure an 8-point win at the Staples Center, then battled hard in Game 2 in a close contest that saw Bryant drop 39 points to give LA a 2-0 series lead. Still, the young Thunder refused to go down easy, storming back in OKC with back-to-back wins of their own over the Lakers, something that Los Angeles hadn't experienced since the 2008 finals.
Where's the mind frame for this team?
I'm not sure. But we understand this is a tough test. I mean, said at the beginning of the series, this wasn't going to be easy. It's going to be a long series. It's going to be a dogfight.
Kobe and the Lakers had to take care of business at home if they wanted to avoid a 7-game series in round 1. And after picking up a gritty 24-point victory behind a big performance from Pau Gasol, it would be LA with the chance to send the Thunder packing in Game 6. Kobe Bryant would be locked in entering the contest, determined to keep the Thunder from extending the series. After a 16-point outburst in the 3rd quarter by Bryant to halt OKC's momentum, it was Pau Gasol who would make the biggest play of the game. The Utah Jazz had high hopes for their 3rd chance in a row at facing the Lakers in the postseason, but quickly found themselves suffering a familiar fate, as despite their best efforts, they couldn't prevent Los Angeles from pulling off a 4-game sweep. Bryant had been relentless, preventing any momentum from Utah by answering their runs with timely buckets and demoralizing performances. After a poor playoff performance against the Jazz as a rookie that had been a driving factor in Bryant's development into one of the game's top stars, there was something poetic about his play throughout the series. Kobe would score over 30 in all 4 games, including a combined 65-point outburst with Pau Gasol in Game 4. And now, with extra time to rest before the Western Conference Finals, the Lakers were once again hitting their stride at the right time. After defeating one of his former rivals, it was only fitting that waiting for Kobe and the Lakers in the conference finals would be another team that had previously been an obstacle for LA. Led by 2-time MVP Steve Nash and All-Star Amari Stoudemire, the Suns had revamped their roster under new head coach Alvin Gentry, winning 54 games and coming off a sweep of their own against the Spurs. It seemed like the series was all but decided early on, with Kobe dropping 40 points on 56% shooting in a 21-point Game 1 win for LA, and then the Lakers pulling out a 12-point victory in Game 2 behind a 29-point performance by Pau Gasol to make the series 2-0. However, as Kobe knew all too well, the Suns were a resilient team, and with the series headed back to Phoenix, they would gain momentum on their home court, coming up with 2 wins of their own. The first was thanks to a 42-point and 11-rebound masterclass by Amari Stoudemire, and the second came from a hot shooting performance from their bench that would hold off a 38-point effort by Bryant in Game 4. With Game 5 being a must-win for LA, they would respond how they had all season, with Kobe continuing his elite play, leading the charge for the Lakers.
Game number 4, here's Kobe Bryant. What a run he has had. Bryant. He had to extend to get it off. They have not gotten into any rhythm, and Kobe gets that sweet spot that he likes against the zone. Bryant with a long 3. And Phoenix hopes they can get that home court and go home for Game 6. And Kobe says we'll have no part of that if he puts his team back up 6 again.
Similar to Game 6 against the Thunder, this contest would come down to the final possession. And once again, it was another member of the Lakers who was willing to step up when they were most needed. With all the momentum in the series following Ron Artest's clutch play to win Game 5, the Lakers would close the series out with a convincing 8-point win in Game 6, with Bryant sealing the Suns' fate with yet another big performance, scoring 37 to send Phoenix home and bring his average for the series to a playoff best 33.7 points per game. After another long playoff run, Kobe and the Lakers had once again reached the NBA Finals, but this time it would be against an opponent they knew all too well. Putting together what many had called an unprecedented roster at the time in 2007, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen had re-established the Boston Celtics as one of the league's top franchises. With a well-rounded roster that played well on both ends of the floor, Boston had taken the league by storm in its first season together, capturing the 2008 NBA championship over the Lakers in an intense 7-game series.
Right now, anything's possible. Anything's possible!
Now, after narrowly missing the opportunity for a rematch in the 2009 finals, the Celtics were back on top of the East and hungry for another ring. On the opposite side, from the moment the final buzzer sounded in 2008, Kobe and the Lakers had been hungry for a chance at revenge in a series they felt should have been theirs. Something that still stuck with them even after winning a title of their own the previous year. 2 years later, and with each team having split the previous 2 championships, the 2010 finals would be an ultimate showdown between the league's 2 most historic franchises, and it would be one of the most anticipated matchups in NBA history.
We're going right now, right at tip-off, we're going. This is our turn, let's go. Go. What time is it? Game time.
It was clear from the opening tip in Game 1 that this was not the same Lakers team from 2008, as they showcased a newfound toughness and grit that had been lacking in their first matchup with Boston. Behind strong efforts by Pau Gasol on both ends and a strong group effort to stifle the Celtics' offense, the Lakers handled business on their home court. Kobe would finish the game with 30 points, 18 of which came in the second half, to secure a 13-point win for Los Angeles.
We got to put our souls in this game. You know what you're supposed to do, but we got to go do it.
With only 3 teams ever coming back from an 0-2 deficit in the finals, the Celtics knew they had to come out strong in Game 2, and a big performance from one of their big 3 would give them just the boost they needed.
Really trying to get back as Allen fires a 3, knocks it down. Ray Allen has the highest 3-point percentage in NBA Finals history. Celtics had an 18-rebound game in these playoffs. Back for Allen, a three. It's good. Ray Allen from downtown. Ray Allen backs out, a three. Knocks it down again. Ray Allen from downtown. He's 4 for 4.
Behind the start to one of the greatest shooting performances in NBA Finals history, longtime rival of Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, would knock down 7 threes in 8 attempts in the first half, finding ways to get free of the Lakers' defense and showing exactly why he was the NBA's all-time leader in three-pointers made. The third quarter saw Los Angeles fight back, with a balanced attack courtesy of the triangle offense, and as the game entered the fourth, both teams were locked in a standstill. This wouldn't last long though, with another Celtics stepping up in crunch time, as Rajon Rondo's 10 points in the final quarter would spark Boston's offense and secure a 103-94 Boston win in the Staples Center. Allen would end the game with 32 points, including the record for most threes ever in a finals game at the time. And just like that, the series was tied up heading across the country to Boston.
I love being the enemy and haters, especially when you win. Nothing like it.
This could be the last time you play here. Better not be the last time you play here. It could be. You don't change your ways.
Kobe Bryant had struggled in Game 2, scoring only 21 points on 20 shots and being unable to get a rhythm going as the Celtics defense smothered him on every possession. Now with a pivotal Game 3 on the line, he would be on a mission to establish himself in the series once again. Standing in his way was future Hall of Famer Kevin Garnett, who after struggling in the first 2 games of the series would find his offensive touch early on, going right at the Lakers and playing with the emotion that had defined his career. In the back and forth contest, Kobe would lead the charge for LA, rising to the occasion by scoring 29 points and contributing in big moments as the series once again came to a close fourth quarter.
But you see the defense by Fisher, he's not giving them any airspace, making those shots a little tougher. Kobe Bryant and a foul. Bryant gets away from Rondo. Oh, what a pretty move. Left-handed floats it in. Bryant takes it away from Garnett. Finds Bynum inside. Counted and a foul. Great hustle play from Kobe Bryant.
Let me ask everybody here. If they would have told us before the game even started, we can go fast forward to the beginning of the fourth quarter, and you're going to be up 6 in the NBA Finals to win the title, will we take it? Yes, sir. Will we take it? Yes, sir. Let's go.
In crunch time, it would be 35-year-old Derek Fisher, who had built a reputation for clutch performances that would put together an 11-point outburst to push the Lakers ahead in a 91-84 win. Just 1 game after giving up home court advantage, LA had taken it right back, securing a 2-1 lead. Once again feeling the pressure, Boston knew that Game 4 was another opportunity to swing the momentum of the series, and once again they would respond the way champions do. Behind a strong overall team performance, led by longtime Celtic Paul Pierce, Boston would pound the ball in the paint, attacking the rim and forcing the Lakers to stop them inside. The strategy would work early on, but once again, LA would make a mid-game run that kept things close entering the final minutes.
Bryant hits a three. Kobe Bryant answers right back. Allen is on Kobe Bryant. Tough shot. Gets it to go. Wants the ball. Brown's got a little quiet. Kobe Bryant drills the three-pointer.
This time, however, it would be Boston who would make a clutch run, as they outscored the Lakers by 10 points in the fourth quarter on their way to a 7-point victory. Kobe had been relentless in the final quarter, getting to the free throw line at will and contributing 12 points in the fourth alone. But an unexpected bench performance from Glenn Davis and Nate Robinson would be the game's deciding factor. Feeling all the momentum now after watching their bench put away the Lakers in Game 4, the Celtics were anxious to make a statement in front of their home crowd for Game 5. Behind 15 first-half points on his way to his best performance of the series, Paul Pierce would help propel the Celtics to a 7-point lead going into halftime. But Boston was met with an aggressive Kobe Bryant, who was doing everything he could to provide an offensive spark for his team.
There, Kobe Bryant. Oh, what a tough shot. Perkins, good help defense there. Bryant again. Bryant, one dribble. Again from three-point range. Kobe Bryant, 10 points in less than 4 minutes here in the third quarter.
Despite scoring 19 points in the third quarter and finishing the game with a total of 38, Bryant and the Lakers were unable to contain Boston's Big Three, who combined for 32 of their team's points on their way to a pivotal Game 5 win. Los Angeles now had their backs against the wall for the first time this season, facing a 3-2 series deficit and needing to win 2 games in a row against one of the league's most dominant teams in order to keep their championship hopes alive.
The challenge, obviously, is down 3-2. You let a couple opportunities slip away, but it is what it is. Like, you go home, you got 2 games at home that you need to win. Pull your boots up, get the work.
Behind their experienced and unrattled head coach Phil Jackson, the Lakers enter Game 6 knowing that in order to win the series, they'd have to put the last 2 games behind them.
All you have to do is win 2 home games and you're the champion. If you can't do that, you're not the champion. The Lakers, it's in their hand.
With the Staples Center buzzing and home court advantage in full effect, the Lakers would come out swinging while facing elimination, immediately getting after the Celtics at every opportunity. This fire spread to every Laker on the floor, from Kobe, Gasol, and Artest, all the way to guys on the bench playing big minutes. Every player on the roster knew that this would not be their final game. Together, they would hold Boston to only 67 points, their lowest total of the playoffs, and Kobe would provide the knockout punch thanks to a 26-point, 11-rebound, and 4-steal performance that sealed a 22-point victory for LA. The Lakers had responded to the adversity and came up big when it mattered most, forcing what was sure to be one of the most iconic Game 7s in NBA history.
Not, you know, for us, it's really just doing what we do. I mean, you can't really enjoy the moment when you're in it. In terms of, you know, what's happening. I mean, you just got a job to do. You go out there and you do it, and then you can look back on it after the fact, but during, you just got to go out there and do your job.
On June 17th, 2010, the Lakers and Celtics would face off in the most watched NBA Finals game since Michael Jordan's final game as the Bulls beat the Jazz in 1998. The build-up to the game was a fan's dream, the NBA's 2 most iconic franchises in a winner-takes-all matchup for the championship. For Kobe Bryant, this matchup meant a final chance at redemption for the lost 2 years prior, and presented yet another chance to etch his name in history books. As the game got underway, it was the Celtics who would strike first, hungry to make sure they didn't let their chance at another title slip away. Rondo would be a key factor early on, finding his teammates and helping Boston jump out to an early 9-point lead. Kobe had struggled to find his footing early on, but it was the contribution of Ron Artest in the second quarter, both offensively and defensively, that would allow the Lakers to go on a run of their own.
Artest with the steal. Drives down, lays it in.
The 2 teams would go back and forth for the rest of the half, with Boston up 6 as the dust settled and the 2 teams headed to their locker rooms. As the second half began, it was now the Lakers who would come out as the aggressors, scratching and clawing their way towards only being down 4 points heading to the fourth. The entire series and season would come down to this final 12 minutes. Having added Ron Artest in the offseason to help defend their championship crown, the Lakers would once again see their decision pay off, as Artest would continue his inspired play on both ends and fuel the Lakers during an intense crunch time run that would see them take the lead. Kobe remained aggressive, drawing fouls as the Celtics scrambled to contain him, and knocking down big free throws to keep the Lakers ahead. Boston refused to go down easy, with Rasheed Wallace knocking down a big triple to cut the lead to 3 with only a minute left. But this time, it was Kobe's trust in another Laker that would be the deciding moment of the game.
Bryant looking. Artest, that's a 3. Bang! Lakers by 6 with a minute to play. Gasol kicks it out to Odom. Odom throws it ahead. The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles. The LA Lakers, the 2010 NBA champions.
It was a heck of a series, man. When we split and lost the second one here, going up to Boston, that was the most fun I think we've had, because our backs were against the wall and it was tough going into the Garden and winning, and then going down 3-2 and then having to bounce back and win. This is the sweetest one.
During the series, Bryant had averaged 28.6 points and 2 steals per game, overcoming Boston's increased defensive pressure and now being named NBA Finals MVP for the second consecutive year. The first player to earn the honor in back-to-back years since his former teammate Shaquille O'Neal did it during the Lakers' three-peat. In a way, this may have been as symbolic as any other aspect of Kobe's second championship run. Not only was he able to prove that he was capable of winning more rings without Shaq, but he did so in his own way, with a team that was designed to play around him and with his mentality. Few of the all-time greats have been fortunate enough to win multiple rings back-to-back in different eras. But the way Kobe was able to do it, with 2 completely different rosters and with 2 very different play styles, just speaks to his ability to adapt and constantly grow as a player. In the end, this will always be what made him special. And now, he had 5 rings and a lot of silenced critics to show for it.
The challenge was issued. Right, wrong, or indifferent. People saying, well, Kobe can't win without Shaq. Right? I said, okay, you know what? I'll show you. I'll show you. And so from that point, it became personal for me. I knew that, winning the championship meant more to me than it did to everybody else. I treat this as life and death, and come hell or high water, that's what I was going to get done. I've always said that I wanted to be remembered as a player that didn't waste a moment, didn't waste a day, and I felt extremely blessed by the God-given talent. But at the same time, I didn't take it for granted at all. And so if I could be remembered as a person that was born with a lot of talent, but did everything he could to try to overachieve, that lived every day as if he was the 12th guy on the bench, I think that's a very powerful message to have, and something that hopefully the players that are now and players that will come later choose to embody as well.